Welcome to Nerdy and Flirty, a podcast designed to help you create a life that you love. It's nerdy with science-backed information, and it's flirty. It's fun, it's quick, it's straight to the point. My name is Cass, and welcome back to the podcast. I hope you're having a great week. I hope you had a great weekend. I know that I had literally one of the best weekends ever. This past 4th of July was just so much fun. I think that every 4th of July needs to be on a Thursday because having Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday off with your friends is just so much fun. Like, I literally had so much fun this weekend. We went to the beach, we went to pools, we went to the beach again. Like, just so much fun. It was one of the best weekends ever. And I think one of the biggest reasons why is because I just did things that were so authentic to me. Like, I didn't stay out super late if I didn't want to. I didn't go out if I didn't want to. Like, I just had fun and did things that I genuinely wanted to do. And I think that there's so much power in that. A few months ago, Mel Robbins put a podcast episode out, and I can't even tell you which one because she has so many amazing ones. But in one of the episodes, she said, "Stop pretending you like things that you don't." And that hit me so hard that I literally put it in my notes app and I was like, I need to bring this up on the podcast at some point. But I just didn't know the right time. And I feel like this weekend, it was so true for me. Like, I just didn't do anything I didn't want to do. Anything I didn't want to do and I didn't like doing, I just didn't go. And if my friends still wanted to go, they could go, but I just did not want to go. And I think that that's perfectly okay. I think so many of us do things that we don't want to do because we don't want to be judged or we don't want to be rejected or we want to fit in. I'm just here to tell you, I am done doing that. I'm done pretending I like things that I don't like. Of course, there are times for compromise, but I still think there's a big difference between compromise and straight up disrespecting your own boundaries for the sake of fitting in. I know that in the past, I've definitely had friendships where I felt like I had to be someone that I wasn't just to fit in with my friends. And it's sad to think about because I spent so much time doing things I didn't want to do because I thought it would make me a more desirable friend. When the reality is, I was the one unhappy every single time. And I attracted the wrong people towards me. And now I feel like I have friends that really align with me and we just respect each other. If someone wants to go out, they go out. If they don't, they don't. And no one's judged or felt like they need to be someone that they're not. And I think that that's really important to have. And if you have just a few people on your side like that, then you're really lucky. So that's my little rant on that. I just feel like this weekend, I just had so much genuine fun and I haven't had that in a really long time. So I'm really happy about that. Today's episode is a Q&A style episode where I'm answering a lot of popular questions that people ask me. We're talking about nutrition questions, general wellness questions, especially as a busy person, spending time alone, and just the podcast and how to start one. Everything is linked in the description with timestamps. So if you want to jump around question to question, you can definitely do that. The first one is how to eat protein, especially with a low appetite. So this is really common and this is something that I've definitely struggled with in the past and I still struggle with sometimes. All of us know that we need to eat protein, but it's hard when you're simply just not hungry. And one of the biggest reasons for this is because when you eat protein, it satiates you a lot more than carbs, for example. So you might notice you could eat a whole bag of chips and not feel any different in fullness, but if you eat like 5 chicken breasts, you're probably gonna feel a lot more full. That's because protein really curbs that hunger, and that's why it's so beneficial, or one of the reasons why it's so beneficial if you are trying to lose body fat to eat more protein, because it does manage that hunger a lot better compared to carbs. But of course, you still need to eat carbs, but protein is going to fill you up a lot more than a carb food will. With that being said, it's still very important to eat enough protein, but it can be difficult to reach your protein goals, whether it's because you're not used to eating that high of protein, or you're full, or if you're really busy working a lot and you find yourself not eating a lot in general, it can be hard to reach your protein goals. And one little hack that I have to help with this is to sneak protein into your diet. I used to do this a lot with my clients where I would talk about ways to sneak that protein into things you might already be eating or spaces where you can add a little bit more protein in. So you're probably like, what do you mean by this? What I mean by this is take what you eat on the day to day and find ways to make it a little bit higher in protein. Some great examples of this are adding in Greek yogurt as a substitute or cottage cheese as a substitute for different creams or cream cheeses, things like that, where those two foods have a lot more protein compared to the cream that you're already going to use, and it's a lot healthier, and you're already eating or making that meal as it is, so you're not really changing the frequency of eating, you're just adding in more protein. You can also do this with protein powders by finding ways to add protein powder into a meal you're already having. This doesn't always work if you're making like pasta, for example, you're not going to add a protein powder, but if you're making muffins or you're making something like that, it's very easy to add protein powder into that. And then if you're just finding that you're not eating enough in general or not eating frequently enough, some of my favorite little hacks, especially if you're on your feet for work and you can't find time to sit down and eat a proper meal, is different foods that are drinkable or very quick and easy to eat. When I was working as a trainer and didn't have many breaks in between clients, one of my favorite things was drinking the Chobani Complete drinkable yogurts. It's a Greek yogurt drink. It literally tastes like Danimals drinkable yogurt. It's so good. It's low in sugar, high in protein, and it's so easy to add an extra 20 grams of protein. I think it's 20 grams. It might be like 18, but it's so much better. Make sure you get the Chobani Complete though, because the other Chobani drinks have a lot more sugar in them. The Chobani Complete are like a blue bottle and they're a little bit bigger. I think they have more protein and zero sugar. The mixed fruit one is my favorite flavor, but they're all so good, except the cookies and cream. I'm not a big fan of that one, but it's so good and they're so easy to drink, and it's literally a Greek yogurt drink. Or simply having a Greek yogurt as a snack, that's pretty easy to eat as well. Make sure you're looking at the sugar content, but those are going to be easy ways to add in protein very simply to your diet. Also cottage cheese if you like eating it plain. I don't really do that one. I'd rather have Greek yogurt, but that's another great alternative. A lot of us tend to just grab for these protein bars when we're in this busy phase of our lives, and I would just say be wary of this. Of course, there are good brands out there, but so many protein bars are filled with so much junk, so much sugar, different chemicals. So just make sure you're reading the label. Same goes for pre-made protein shakes. There are good ones out there, but there's definitely way more bad than good. So really read the label, read the sugar content, read the added sugars and the added chemicals on the ingredients list, and use those with caution. Okay, the next question about nutrition that I get is how to eat healthy on a budget, because this can definitely be difficult, especially with everything just so expensive nowadays. I understand that it is common to think that eating healthy is so expensive, and I have some tips and also just some opinions on this that I want to share. So, first of all, I do a budget every month where I look at my expenses, I look at my income, I compare the two, I see how much I save each month, and one of my categories in my budget is groceries, and I separate groceries from eating out. If you've never done this, first, I highly suggest that you do this over the course of a month and see how much you spent on groceries and how much you spent going out to eat, because the two are going to be super eye-opening for you to see. When you actually break down your expenses, 9 times out of 10, your grocery bill is probably not your highest bill throughout the month. My opinion on that is I would rather cut down my expenses in other places than worry about where my grocery bill is coming from. I would rather spend less on my social life, less on going out to eat, less on travel, less on all those other things before I start taking money away from my grocery budget. I don't want to put pressure on myself to have to buy ramen noodles, for example, just because of my budget and being able to afford it. I would so much rather cut out alcohol, which so many of us spend a lot of money on, than take away and buy cheaper meats, cheaper foods that are not necessarily healthy, because the one thing you can't ever get back is your health. To me, that is the most important thing. So why am I going to cheap out on my grocery bill when I spend money on so many other silly things? Look at your Amazon bill, look at your shopping expenses, look at your alcohol bill, and then you can start to determine if you're spending too much on groceries. That's my just opinion overall. Now, with that being said, I'm still very financially aware of how much I'm spending. I don't just go into the grocery store and buy whatever I want without thinking about it first. Some things that I like to do is first, I always get the app of whatever grocery store I'm using. And this is where I'll find all my coupons, all the sales that are going on, all the different deals. For example, with fruit, I like to buy fruits throughout the week. And if I see that they're running a deal on strawberries, I'll make that my fruit for the week. If they have a deal on a watermelon, I'll get that. Like, I usually let that determine some of the vegetables or fruits that I'm getting. You'd be surprised how much you can save just by looking at the app of your grocery store. I know one time I used the digital coupons on there and I saved like $20 just from scanning the coupons that already existed on there for me. So you can definitely save money that way. And also, I like to pick and choose where I go grocery shopping. Especially in the summer, there are so many more options available, specifically when it comes to like farmers markets. We have one farm stand right around the corner from me, and they have such good produce for the same price, if not cheaper, than the big grocery stores. And it's such better quality. They don't use as much preservatives. They're most of the time organic, and they're just good quality produce. And I love that. If I can shop there, I shop there anytime that I can, because I'd rather not only give my business to a local business, but also get that better quality produce. Same with meats. I like to go to meat markets if I can, or like an Amish market to get my meats, just because I know that they're better quality, better cut, not as preserved as long, things like that. And then in terms of big grocery stores, Aldi is actually so good. I do a lot of my shopping at Aldi, especially during the winter when things aren't open as much. They have a really good selection of produce, especially organic produce, and their food brands are off-brand, but they taste just like the big brands, and it's so much cheaper than traditional grocery store. So I highly recommend finding an Aldi and going there if you have one near you, because you would be surprised at how much cheaper everything is there. And don't let the brands like intimidate you. So much of our food is made all in the same factory, and then they just have different labels on them. So don't be afraid to buy a brand that you haven't heard of. My biggest thing is I like to look at the nutrition facts, and I like to look at the ingredients list. And if the brand is some brand I've never heard of, that's fine by me. And then the last thing in this topic is plan out your meals. A big reason why healthy food becomes so expensive is because you buy a bunch of stuff and then it goes bad and then you waste all that food. And that's a lot of money that you're wasting as well. If you're trying to eat healthy on a budget, you can't be wasting food. You can't afford to waste food. This is a big thing that I try to be really adamant about, because I want to eat the food that I buy. So I like to plan out my meals and make sure that I'm not only cooking everything that I bought, but I'm eating everything I bought as well. I always plan to eat leftovers one night. I try to eat up anything that we have extra. If I have too much food, I'll have friends over, I'll put it out on a tray, I'll do something to make sure that I eat all the food that I'm using and not just throwing it all in the trash. The biggest takeaway when it comes to eating healthy on a budget is definitely just doing a budget first and seeing how much money you're actually spending, because you will be so surprised at how much you spend on dumb things before you start taking money away from your grocery budget. The next question we have is also nutrition related, and it's how to eat healthy while busy and also not that good in the kitchen. So many people have asked me how to start learning how to cook healthy, but also not take so much time in the kitchen. And let me tell you, I've definitely been in your shoes, and sometimes I'm still in your shoes, because I don't want to spend all day in the kitchen either. I think there's a big misconception about healthy cooking and healthy eating, where you have to spend 5 hours preparing this huge fancy meal with all these different dips and sauces and fancy things, and that's just not the reality. You can definitely eat very healthy without making these big extravagant meals that take tons and tons of time. And I actually created an entire ebook about this. And if you have my ebook, you are definitely an OG and you're the best. It's on my website if you wanted to check it out. But in the ebook, I talked all about this, because meal planning as a beginner is a hard thing to learn at first, but once you get the hang of it, it gets so much easier. When you're first starting out, especially if you don't know how to cook or you don't know how to cook a lot of things, is slowly incorporating new meals into your routine or into your repertoire of meals each week. In my ebook, I call these your fun meals. So the base of your meal plan, when you're making a meal plan and you're putting in the different meals, the base of your meal plan should be easy meals that you could make no problem. They're convenient. One of my favorite ones is tacos because you literally just have to make the meat and then the rest is just toppings. That's super easy to make, super quick, super simple. Same with things like sheet pan recipes. Sheet pan recipes are so easy. You just put everything on one pan, put it in the oven, cook it for a certain amount of time, and then you're done. Those are some of my favorite, very, very easy meals. And then that should be the base of your meal plan. So the 6 meals of the week should be super easy, things like that. Your 7th meal of the week should be on a day that's a fun day for you, a day that you don't have a lot going on. You have more time to experiment in the kitchen. And this is where you'll add in a fun meal. Now, a fun meal is a meal that you want to learn how to make, but you're not an expert in it. You don't know how to make it yet. You have to follow a recipe. That's your fun meal. Each week, keep adding in a fun meal until you get the hang of it, and then it becomes one of your easy go-to meals. That is my strategy for cooking really well and cooking a lot of healthy food without breaking your time and messing up all of the time you have in the week. Now that I've been doing this for a couple years, I have a big repertoire of meals that I can turn to that in a pinch, I only have a little bit of time. I know I can make these meals really simply, really easily without thinking too much about it. The same will happen for you. If you're just starting to learn how to cook and you start out with a few meals that you know how to make, and then over time, you're gonna add more meals into your repertoire where now those meals that you had to follow a recipe for become like the back of your hand and you know how to make them pretty simply. My biggest advice on this is just having fun and trusting the process and making it fun for yourself. If you constantly have it in your head that this is going to be really hard or you're just dreading cooking all these meals, then it's not going to be fun and you're definitely going to hate it. But if you make it a game and you're like, okay, each week I'm going to make one new meal and I'm really excited about trying out these quesadillas or whatever it is, like that makes it so much more fun than just following recipes, getting stressed out, hating what you're doing, taking up so much time. Like it's not as fun like that. Learning how to cook is one of the biggest life skills that everyone needs to know, but it's hard to learn at first because they don't teach us in school. If you have family members that don't really cook, then you're not going to learn there. And even if you do have family members that cook, you need to go out of your way to learn how to cook from them. I know so many people that their parents cook, but their parents don't let the kids learn how with them. So then they never learn how to cook. And then you spend your life as an adult not knowing how to make simple meals. I think learning how to cook is one of the biggest skills that you can teach yourself to benefit from the rest of your life. If you know how to cook and you learn how to cook for yourself, especially healthy meals, you are going to be set up so much better in life than someone that doesn't know how to cook, constantly relying on other people, getting takeout, things like that. That's one of the biggest skills that you could learn to set yourself up for success. And I'm a firm believer on that. So if you want to check out my ebook, it's linked on my website. I'm pretty sure there's a promo going on right now. And if there's not, I'll definitely put one in since I'm talking about it on the podcast. It's just a beginner's guide to meal planning. There's recipes in there. There's some tips in there. And I think it's just a good little resource to have. So that's my opinion on that. Okay, the next question that I have is how to start getting into hobbies and about my hobbies specifically because I'm always doing different things. And this is so true. I feel like I have a wide range of hobbies. Since I was a little kid, I've always been involved in very random things. Like I've done the most random things, but I was obsessed with learning new things. Ever since I was a little girl, I was always so curious about anything and everything that I saw. If I saw someone draw, I wanted to learn how to draw. If I saw someone paint, I wanted to learn how to paint. Dance, anything like that. I just wanted to try everything. And I think as an adult, I'm still like that because when I see a new hobby, I just want to try it right away. That's where I've gotten into my random assortment of hobbies. So some of my favorite hobbies, I mean, this is a little bit different right now because I'm still doing physical therapy for my ACL. But my favorite hobbies typically are pretty active ones like yoga, pickleball, dance, weight training, golf. I played golf in high school and I loved it. That's where I learned how to play. But I also have a lot of creative hobbies that don't require physical activity. I love to paint. I love to sketch things out. I also just love like photos and podcasting stuff, like anything digital I really enjoy as well. I love making different vision boards and curating aesthetics. I like to read as well. I take breaks from it because I get tired of reading certain books and I feel like I need to stop and then come back to it. But I do love to read. I just got 2 more books. I'm in this historical fiction phase right now. I just read The Women by Kristen Hanna, I think is her name. And it was literally one of the best books I've ever read, if not the best book I've ever read. It's about the Vietnam War. This girl, she's a nurse. She goes through the Vietnam War as an army nurse, and it was just the best book. And so I got another book of hers, The Nightingale, which I think is World War II. And then I also got The Tattooist of Auschwitz, which I've heard a lot of good things about. And that's also World War II historical fiction. So I'm excited to read both of those. I've been in this historical fiction phase. But just reading in general, I like to read. I like to learn different things. I love to cook and bake, as you guys know. I love baking different cupcakes and decorating them and things like that. That's been a really fun hobby of mine that I've been obsessed with. Anything that you invite me to, I will probably bring a dessert of some kind because I just like to bake, but I also like to cook. Everyone knows that. If you've come to my house, I've probably cooked something for you at some point, and I really enjoy that as well. The biggest thing about hobbies is just trying new things and not being afraid to be bad at it. Every hobby I've started, I was definitely bad at it in the beginning, but you just practice more and more and you get exponentially better at it as you keep going. And honestly, I love being bad at something new. Like when I first started this podcast, I was so bad at it. It took me so long to edit and figure out everything and do all the technology, but I enjoyed that process because it's fun to learn the process of it. Embrace being a beginner. I think a lot of us go on social media and we see people good at things right off the bat, or that's how it seems. But the reality is that to be good at anything, you have to put the time in and you have to practice it. And being a beginner is just part of the process. And the sooner you embrace that, the better you'll get at things. And it's just really fun to have hobbies. Going along with that, I got some questions about this podcast and how I started it and how to start a podcast if you want to start one. And my biggest thing is literally just start. There have been years of my life where I wanted to start a podcast and I never started it. And I wish I just started from then on because I would be a lot further now. But my biggest thing is you can't think about the time that's passed. You just have to start it. Literally start it and be serious about it. Post every single week or pick a schedule that you can actually keep posting. Every week I think is a good place to start and be so consistent with it. Take it seriously. Take it like it's a job and post every single time. Don't think so much about what other people are going to think about it. Just put it out there. Just like any new hobby, you have to be okay with being kind of bad at it in the beginning because that's the only way you're going to get good at it. If you just focus on all your mistakes and different things like that, then you're never going to put anything out there. In terms of equipment and stuff, I literally use GarageBand and this microphone I got on Amazon. I don't think the sound quality is the best, but it does what I need it to for now, and I would recommend you just doing that until you get the ball rolling and you really see like, okay, I've done this for 6 months straight now I'm gonna invest in better equipment. If the equipment is what's stopping you, that's just an excuse you're making for yourself, and I know that because I did that with myself for a long time. I got so caught up in the equipment and needing everything to be perfect that it just stopped me from doing it all in general. And now I can confidently say, like, just get some kind of equipment. You don't need the best equipment. You just need to get started. What you have to say is so much more important than how the equipment sounds as you say it. If you have something good to say and you're living authentically and you're speaking authentically, your audience is going to find you and your community is going to build. Definitely takes time. If you're looking for overnight success, podcasting is not where it's at because it definitely takes time to get there. But it'll be consistent growth if you're consistent with it. The next question we have is how to be comfortable spending time alone. And I love this question because I love spending time alone, and it shocks me when other people don't necessarily like to spend time alone. I thrive on my alone time. I need it. I need time to just be in my own head and spend time by myself. I love going out and doing things alone. I love being by myself, but it definitely grew as I've gotten older. I think a lot of us still have pressure on ourselves where we feel like we need to have people around us to feel worthy and to feel desirable, and that is just so not the case. You are worthy and desirable and a great person without having a million friends around you or a boyfriend around you or whatever you feel like you need around you. You can absolutely be 100% whole by yourself, doing things by yourself. Now, of course, relationships are so important and having a community is so important, but it's also important to be independent and do things by yourself. If you are trying to be more independent, trying to start doing things by yourself, but you're not really comfortable yet, one of the easiest things to do is go to like Target or some kind of store by yourself and see how it feels. Go to the grocery store by yourself, go to Target by yourself, walk around the aisles, make a solo date out of it, go thrifting, find little things like that it's not weird if you go by yourself, but you get to be by yourself and genuinely do it by yourself. Don't be on your phone. Don't be talking on the phone to anyone. Like, go and be present with yourself and see how you feel. Over time, as you do that more and more and you get comfortable doing that, you'll get more comfortable going other places by yourself. Like, I'll go to the beach by myself. I'll go to the sunrise by myself. I'll go walking by myself. I'll do all kinds of things by myself because I like my own company. I like spending time by myself, and I don't think that that's weird to say that. I've seen some people be so uncomfortable just spending time alone, and I think that that's really sad because I love my own company. Like I said, I love spending time by myself. I think it's so healing and it just recenters me. And I think once you start to embrace it, you'll enjoy it even more. I have great friendships. I'm in a serious relationship, and I still make sure to prioritize my alone time. Now, if you're more extroverted, you might not need as much alone time as someone that's more introverted, but I still think that everyone needs alone time throughout their lives. It helps you listen to that inner voice. Like, how do you know what you genuinely want if you're constantly listening to everyone else's opinions, everyone else's comments and concerns? You don't. It's a lot harder to listen to yourself if everyone else is talking around you. Find some time to do things alone. Like I said, my favorite things are just running errands by myself and being really present. Like, romanticize it. Don't have a podcast in your ears. Don't have music in your ears. Don't be on the phone. Just walk around and spend time with yourself. Over time, that will grow to going out to lunch by yourself, or sitting at a bar by yourself, or going to the beach by yourself, doing anything by yourself. It grows over time. It's like a muscle. I think I'm going to end on that one. I think that was a really good question to end on. Thank you so much for listening. I definitely want to do another one of these in the future, and maybe we can even do a live Q&A and have listeners on. I think that would be so much fun. Thanks so much for being here and listening week after week. Definitely share this with a friend if you liked it, or share the podcast with a friend. It really helps me out. When you guys share it on your Instagram stories and things like that, it really does help the podcast grow. Give it 5 stars and nothing less. And I will talk to you next week. Have a great week. Bye.